By the end of this, your character will look and function like this. I mean, at least you can hope. We will be using classic character controller for the third person movement, and then we will use root motion for the fight movements as well as for all the attacks, and you can add special moves as well if you want to. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is your game dev speaking. Today we'll go through how to implement root motion based character controller, giving you everything you'll need for a sword fighting game, or you can actually use this in any form in any game. So you can see a cube in front of you, and I'm just adding a simple move script to it. So all this script does is it basically just moves our character a little bit according to our inputs from our x-axis and z-axis, which is basically just horizontal and vertical inputs. It just multiplies it by speed over time.delta time and just moves our cube a little bit. Let me just attach our script and add a character controller to it because we need that. And let me just increase the speed a little bit, and let's click on play. And just like that I can move our cube. Now here's the thing, if I just add a simple animation to this cube, drag and drop this on our cube, there we go. And if we just move our cube a little bit in here, say we move it in that direction, so yeah, it's making a root motion over its x-axis. What will happen when we turn on the apply root motion in here? So let's play, and remember currently it's set to false, so it just moves and I can't really do anything even though we have the script attached to it. Now if we turn on the root motion, you can see I can still control the movement of the cube. And that's basically what root motion is. Your animation controls the root movement of your character. Enough explanation now, let's get building. We have this really awesome model that I found on Sketchfab and I took some inspiration from it. And here we have that inside Unity along with our sword. Looks really awesome. Now let's head over to Mixamo. Here I have the character inside Mixamo, and here is the rig of our character. Now first thing first, I'm just gonna get the idle animation from Mixamo. FBX for Unity with skin. Remember, we're gonna get the idle animation with skin. And let's just download this, drag and drop this inside Unity. There we go. And let me just reposition the sword that we have. And we no longer need our original model because now we have the Mixamo rig model. And let me just reposition our camera so that it looks like a third-person camera controller. Now let me just tidy up these things. So let me just create a new folder, call it textures or whatever you want to call it, and let's just drag and drop all of our these unnecessary models. Yeah, there we go. And remember, we already have the idle animation inside the model itself. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to rig, convert this from generic to humanoid, make from this model, create from this model, and just click apply. Don't worry about if you get any console errors or warnings. If you need to, just go to configure, make sure that everything's green. If not, well, then you need to reconfigure your model, but most of the time it will be green. It will be configured correctly. So yeah, let me just click on done, and just like that we have a proper humanoid model. Next thing, we can just click on the animation that is inside the model and just click Ctrl D to duplicate it, and we have to change a few settings in here. Now first thing first, let me just explain what these properties actually means. So first of all, loop time, it of course simply loops your animation again and again instead of just stopping it once. Then we have loop pose. It basically allows Unity to blend the start and the end poses to create a kind of like a seamless loop. So yeah, for continuous root animations like walks and run, you should definitely turn this on if you think your animation is a bit jittery and it has no direct impact on any type of performance. Then we of course have the root transform components, the root transform rotation along the y-axis, the transform position along the y-axis, and the transform position along the xz axis. Baking into pose specifically means that you are basically enabling or disabling the root motion for that specific axis. When you enable it, the animation clip will be baked into the motion of the bones, which means the pose, and that means the game object's transform will not move from this animation. So yeah, you have to keep it disabled. If you enable it, then there is no root motion. Then we have based upon. This just determines the reference point or the orientation for the root motion calculations. When you switch it to original, it basically uses the position or rotation data as it is in the source file, which is the FBX or the animation file. Then we have body orientation, center of mass and feet, which are of course for humanoid rig only. Body orientation just keeps the character's upper body pointing forward. Center of mass aligns the center of mass of your character with the root transform position, and feet just keeps the feet of your character aligned with the root transform position. This prevents floating while blending. I know it all sounds a little bit complex, but don't worry, I would highly recommend you experiment with these things as much as you can. Then lastly, we have the offset, which basically again it does what it says. It offsets your animation in that axis or in that rotation. For now, you can just follow along with what I'm doing. Next up, we need walk and run animations, so let's just get those. Alright, now I've downloaded the walk animation. Let's just drag and drop this and do the same thing. Convert this from generic to humanoid. Copy from, this time it's copy from other avatar, and select your avatar that's created from the model, and just click apply. It will again print out a warning. Don't give a crap about that. And yeah, now we can actually just Control D to duplicate the animation and delete the original FBX, just like that. And now we have the walk animation. By the way, remember, since we turned on the in place option for the Mixamo part, therefore it's not moving, even though it's like it's supposed to move. That's the entire reason why it was not moving. Don't worry, we'll talk about this later in the video. Currently just follow these settings and turn these on and you're good to go. Alright, next up, let's get the run animation. So yeah, do the same thing. Get the animation from Mixamo, download it with in place checked, and we can just drag and drop this into Unity. Do the same thing. Convert this generic to humanoid, copy from other avatar, make sure that it's our right avatar, drag and drop this there, click apply, don't give the crap about the warning, and Control D to duplicate your animation, delete the original FBX, and there we go. Now we have the run. Do the same thing, loop this, turn on original, turn these on, and we are good. Now currently our animation doesn't really have any animator controller, which is of course the thing that you need to do animations. So we can just drag and drop our idle animation, and there we go. Now we have an animator controller, and we can check this out. It has the idle animation as its primary animation. Now we can just create a new state here, create a new blend tree, call it, I don't know, movement or something. And we'll need a speed variable to control these the stuff inside blend tree. Make a new motion field, which is basically animations. Create 3 of them, one for idle, walk, and run. Turn off automatic threshold, drag and drop all the animations. And we can change the threshold a little bit, change this to 3, 1, something like that. We might need to change these later. And you can actually check this here. If we increase the speed, you can see it goes to walk and then it goes to running. Okay, now we need some way to control this thing. So let's open our move script. Now currently this is all that was the script for just to move the cube. We're gonna make some changes to this. So let me just explain this code a little bit. First of all, we're just getting the input for horizontal and vertical axes. Then we get the camera relative forward and right direction, because well, you kind of need that, so that it ensures that the movement depends on the camera direction, just like 3D games. And of course the y-axis is removed, so movement stays on the ground plane. Then we determine the direction in which the player wants to move by combining the forward, back, and the left, right into a single 3D directional vector, which is of course the desired move direction. And then we simply just rotate the character towards the movement direction. Back in Unity, first of all, turn off the apply root motion here, because we don't want that. And now, first of all, let's just drag and drop our script to this and drag and drop our camera there. And we need a character controller here. And let me just rescale the character controller. And now let's click on play. And when we press WSAD, you can see that it actually rotates towards that direction. Let me increase the turn speed, and yeah, working well. Back in Visual Studio, let's add some more stuff. Here we are finally just applying the movement that we have calculated, and we are also applying the gravity here so that it kind of goes down. In a nutshell, we're just getting the input, then getting the cameras forward, then making sure to normalize those stuff because we have to, then getting the correct move direction in which we want to move, and then we rotate our character in the direction that we want to rotate in. Then we calculate the move direction, and then we just move our character in that direction. And finally, since our animator has the speed variable that you remember we putting in the animator component, we smoothly set the speed as basically our character controller's own speed. And finally, I just added a simple sprint mechanic which will just multiply our main speed. Back in Unity, just drag and drop our animator component to this, and we're gonna have to change a few things, especially in our blend tree and our speed and multiplying speed sprint variable. Now currently our threshold is 0, 1 and 3, so let's just change them to our current speed and multiply it by exactly the sprint speed that we have, our sprint speed multiplier. So 3.5, and yeah, as you can see that the shoes of our character are kinda sliding a little bit. To fix them, you're gonna have to increase the sprint speed a little bit and also increase the speed in the animator controller as well as in the blend tree. And yeah, just like that, now the shoes aren't sliding anymore. So 4 seems to be perfect for this. Now the sprint animation is pretty fast, so as you can see our current multiplier is not at all correct for that. Increase the multiplier a little bit, I guess 2 should be good, and remember to multiply the speed multiplier by that. And no, still the shoes are sliding, so let me just get back to you after changing a few things. So yeah, the 4 times 4 multiplier should be good, which means 16 will be for our fast run animation threshold. And now as you can see, even though the walk animation looks well, it's still, the shoes are still sliding just a little bit. So instead of changing these, we can change the animation speed a little bit. So I guess 0.9 should be good. And yeah, there we go. Now the shoes placement seems perfect. Next thing that I would highly recommend you to install would be animation rigging. Just have that go to your package manager and install animation rigging. In this tutorial, it might not come in very handy, but I would highly recommend you installing animation rigging as soon as you start working on any humanoid animation. And then we'll select our root bone and go to animation rigging, bone render setup. It will just allow us to visualize all the bones in our character. And after 11 minutes, we finally have to go to the root part of this root motion controller. Let's get the sword animations. So first of all, let's get the idle animation. And actually first of all, let's get the animation in which we are drawing our sword. Just click on download as always without skin, FBX for Unity. Drag and drop this inside Unity. Do the same thing, humanoid, copy from another avatar, drag and drop our avatar. There we go. Click on apply and Ctrl D to duplicate the animation and delete the original one. There we go. Now we don't need the loop time for this, we just need to bake into the pose original, bake into the pose for y-axis as well. And now we can just drag and drop our animation here in the base part of the animation. So here's our animation and we can play it. So currently, as you can see, the sword isn't exactly at the right place. So yeah, let me just drag and drop our sword to its correct bone. We need it to be inside the hip, inside the pelvis bone. There we go. And now the sword will move as when our character move, but currently the sword's handle isn't exactly in the correct position. So let me just position, rotation, and scale our sword. And so just like that, our character is ready. Let's create 2 new scripts. First one will be called fight mode, and again you can call this whatever you want, and this is going to be the script that's going to take care of the root motion. And the second script that we're going to create is basically a third-person camera controller. And here's our third-person camera script. So it just does 2 simple things. It rotates your camera depending upon the input from your mouse, moving it, and then just multiply it with some sensitivity. And it moves your camera to the player's position along with some offset. Depending upon whether you are aiming or not, depending upon this single bool, it will move your camera to an offset, whether it's an aiming offset or a simple normal offset. So let's create a camera holder, drag and drop the script to that, drag our target, and we can play and check if our camera script is working well, which yes it is, but we need to refine some values here. Now with that working really well, let's head over to the fight mode script. So allow me to do some modifications. First of all, we just have a boolean fight mode is equal to not fight mode if we press F, and we can reference an animator here. So first we need to head over to Unity, and there's a fight mode script. Drag and drop your animator component there, and let's create a new bool, call it fight mode, and there we go. Now when we press F, in the animator component, fight mode will be set to our script's fight mode. Then we need to create a few more components. First of all, the camera component, and we can set when our camera is aiming. When we press F, then when we go into fight mode, our camera will start aiming, so it will be set to the aiming offset. And now we can do a couple of things when we are in the fight mode. First thing first, we need to rotate towards camera facing. Basically, movement will no longer control our rotation. If camera is facing towards a certain direction, we need to face that way as well. It's almost like an FPS game. So first thing first, let's create a new function to rotate towards camera facing. We need to create a couple more components here. By the way, remember, we already have a turn speed component in our move script, so we can just reuse that. Let's get a reference from our move script. And we can also write in here that once we go into fight mode, we can just turn off our character move script. We don't need any input from that. We can just use our fight mode script when we are in the fight mode. So rotate towards camera facing, we can actually do the same thing. We can get the forward component, and instead of having the camera and that camera script as a different components, we can just have a transform camera. There we go. And we don't need to reference our TPP camera from the public. So we can just in the start write TPP camera is equal to get component from the camera transform. There we go. And we no longer need it as public. And yeah, let's rotate our character towards our camera facing. As always, y is equal to 0 because we don't need any input on that axis. Normalize the direction, and then we can just simply rotate our camera here. And remember, we are using the turn speed from our move script. We don't need a separate turn speed in here. Let's save this and back to Unity. Let's connect these things. So we can create a simple transition here, turn off that, and turn the fight mode on. There we go. And yeah, let's just move our camera script and our camera transform and our player move script. Let's click on play. We can move as we were, and when we press F, you can see that we draw our sword, and now when we move our camera, our character moves as well. Although currently aiming camera doesn't really work well. The reason behind that is actually pretty simple. We need to create a separate camera offset because, well, currently our camera's player is at the bottom of her feet. We kind of need it to be at her shoulder level. So let's create a separate camera look position, drag that to her shoulder position, and there we go. Now we need to reassign the offsets again. So just give me a second. There we go. Now it looks well, it functions well. And we can, for temporary, we can create a back transition to this and just make the fight mode turn false, and we will get back to our normal movement animation. Let's click play. When we press F, we go into the fight mode, and when we press F again, we go into the normal mode. Pretty nice. Finally, let's get all the sword animations: sword idle, run forward, run backward, strafe left, and strafe right. Just make sure to remember, turn off the in place option. Make sure that that is off, or else root motion won't work. That was the reason why in the previous time, when even though our root motion was turned on, still the character didn't move. That's because in our animation itself, in place was turned on. And so let's create a new blend tree. We can call this one as a sword animation or fight mode, and we can make a simple transition here. Make sure that the has exit time is turned on so that you have the complete withdrawing sword animation played. And when fight mode is turned on, it will go to fight mode movements. First of all, turn this from 1D to 2D simple directional, and let's make 2 new floats. Don't worry, that's all we're gonna need, just 2 more floats. Input X and input Y. And these 2 floats are simply going to control our entire movement when we are in the fight mode. So let's switch these to input X and input Z. Let's make an entire new folder for all our attack type animations, for our fight mode animations. And let's drag and drop all those animations that we have, like sword idle, sword forward, backward, strafe left, and strafe right. And do the same thing that we have done always. Just turn this to humanoid from other model. Make sure to select our correct model and just click apply for all those animations. For all 5 animations, we will have the same settings: loop time turned on, original, bake into pose for Y-axis as well. Then just like that, all of our animations are ready. Let me just rename some of them so that we can actually know what animations they actually are. Now I have added the idle animation to our blend tree, and let's add the rest of the animations as well. And give me a second. Let me just add all of these. Alright, back into the script, and it's time to add a few more things. So let's add two more floats, input X and input Z. And now it's time to handle the movement part. So let's create a new function here. When we are in fight mode, we can call this new function, call it as animate movements. Now we're gonna need a couple of things. So first of all, let's set the input X to our input.getAxis horizontal, input Z as input.getAxis vertical. Now that we have the inputs, we can actually just set animator float as these two. And yeah, that's all we actually need. Back in Unity, all we have to do now is just make sure that these animations are in their perfect place inside our blend tree. So for that, of course, our forward axis will be input.x-axis. So just make sure that your sword forward movement is set to that. Strafe right is set to the right, strafe left to the left, forward to forward, backward to backward. And refine all these inputs. And just like that, our blend tree is ready. When we set both values to 0, it will set to idle, set input.horizontal to right, it will switch to strafe right to left, it will switch to left, and now we can just click on play. Okay, so it's moving perfectly. When we switch to fight mode, and there we go. Our animations are the ones that are controlling the movements. Just like that, our character is working fine. There is no character controller here in working, only the animation themselves are taking care of the movement. By the way, switching back from fight mode isn't really working now. So we can make a transition here, but it would be better if we make an entire new animation in which we draw our sword back into its place. Let's get a new animation. There it is, shielding the sword, putting the sword back. We can get this, just download. As always, drag and drop this inside Unity, and you know what to do. Rig from humanoid, copy from other, drag and drop our avatar, apply, Ctrl D to duplicate the animation and delete the original one, and make sure to turn those on, original and bake into pose. Drag and drop our animation here, and now instead of controlling this from there, and we can just make this. So from normal movement, it withdraws our sword, goes into fight movement, then back to shielding the sword, and back into normal movement. Make sure all the bools are set accordingly. Make sure the has exit time is enabled at the correct point, where it's withdrawing sword and shielding sword should have exit time enabled, and the other two shouldn't. And we can now click on play, and just like that, we can walk, we can pull our sword out, we can run, and we can put our sword back in. Excellent. Alright, now bear with me, just a few steps are left. So let's first of all get reference to both the swords, because now we are going to have a sword in our hand, just disabled, and another sword that's going to be on our side, just so that it looks like we actually have a sword. And the second we pull out our sword, we will just simply disable the one on our hip and just enable the one on our hand. So let's create a simple public function for that. And depending upon whether our fight mode is enabled or not, it will switch our swords. Let's open the animations where we actually do the switching of our sword, and put the animation exactly where we actually do the switching, where we actually pull out our sword. There is the keyframe, and we can just add a simple animation event here, and we can just call our switch sword function from here. Sword switch, there we go. And we can do the same thing for the other animation where we shield our sword. And now let's just put a fresh new sword on our character's hands, and we can rename these swords, the one in hand and the one on the back. And now we can just assign those two swords to our script. Make sure to turn the sword in your hand off, and now we can just click on play, and we can walk around fine, even though the sword doesn't look good, but still we can pull out our sword and it looks clean, and we can put our sword back. We are left with one last step now, which is doing the actual attacks. So let's head over to Mixamo, and first of all, let's just get these attacks that I'm gonna use. Alright, there we go. We have one normal slash, one reverse slash, and one spin attack. You know what to do. Humanoid, copy from other avatar, and then Ctrl D to duplicate all of them, and just delete the original ones. By the way, melee attacks are one of the best places where root motion really looks great, because now you no longer have to worry about moving your character when your animation moves your character. Just drag all our animations here, and we'll create a simple combo attack here. There we go. Now we're gonna need one trigger and one boolean here. So an attack trigger and a combo, like we are doing do combo boolean. Don't worry, this will make sense in just a second when we start scripting, but currently just do these transitions. So in a nutshell, when we are in fight mode, if we start attacking, we need to go to our first slash attack. Then if we don't like continue to attack, we will need to head back to our normal fight mode. But if we continue to attack, we need to go into our next attack and then into our last attack, and then we need to head back to our fight mode. And that's basically how our one trigger and one boolean will take care of all of this. So you can take a look at the transitions that I'm currently using. And just like that, we are good. That's all we need to do for our animation transitions. Let's head to the script and let's make a new function here, handle attacks. And here we can just simply write if input.get mouse button down. We can just set the attack trigger. And we need to make a new boolean here, can combo, where we can allow our animations to control whether or not we can actually combo. Like when we'll give ourselves some time, like when sometimes between the animations, if you click attack there, you can actually combo. So let's create a new public function here, call it open combo, and we can just say here that now can combo will be equal to true, and this will be called from our animation itself. Now here, instead of just calling our set trigger attack, we can say if we are having a combo continuation, then we can just say that boolean can combo is true, which is our this boolean, which will allow us to continue our combo attack. And if not, which means if we are attacking for the first time, then we can just simply set the attack trigger. And finally, we need to just close the combo when we are done with this, when we are done with the attacks. So just call this close combo, where we call can combo equal to false, and just set the animator bool do combo to false and reset the attack trigger. Head back to Unity. Let's open our attacks and make sure that our animation events are perfectly timed. So when we start attacking, we can add a new event here. In our first attack, we can call it open combo, and on our last animation where we end our animation, we can make another event where we close the combo. So if our player attacks in between these two keyframes, we will continue with our attack, our combo attack. If not, well then we head back to our normal fight movements. We'll do the same thing for our next attack. Add a new event here, open combo, and somewhere towards the end we can close the combo. And for our last attack, we just need to end the combo here. We don't need to open the combo, we just need to end the combo here. Towards the end of the animation, we can just close combo. There we go. And we are done. We can just play now and switch to fight mode and tap our mouse button. There we go. Now we are swinging the sword. If we attack and continue to attack, you can see that we do the combo. Otherwise, it's just one single attack. The final last attack is a little bit slow, so we can increase its speed a little bit so it works well along with other animations. There we go. And yeah, just like that, our character work is completed. If you are still watching, a huge thanks to you. If you like this tutorial, like, subscribe, turn on the notification, you know what to do. I keep making tutorials and other unhinged games and game dev videos. So yeah, for those, subscribe. And yeah, that would be just about it. Cheers and peace. And keep making awesome stuff.